I'd like to call to order the November 22nd, 2016 regular meeting of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors is hereby called to order. I'm going to ask that folks join me in a moment of silence. We've had two tragedies in our school community here in the last week. Monroe School Board member Jim Scott passed away over the weekend. He was a strong advocate for public education, for strategic, balanced, and quality board governance and leadership, and steadfastly adhere to the principles of civility in times of public stress and conflict. He was a good friend to our board members and to the district as well as Monroe's, and we are saddened by his loss. Jim will be missed by all who value human kindness, the spirit of service, and the presence of hope in all that we do to make the world a better place for our children. I would also like for you to join me in a moment of silence for the 5 children killed yesterday in Chattanooga in a school bus crash, and for your thoughts and prayers for the families of the 6 who remain hospitalized at this time. 5 is a cursed number in our city right now, and we are dealing with an unimaginable loss, said Andy Burke, the mayor of Chattanooga. The most unnatural thing for the world is for a parent to mourn the loss of a child. And so will you please join me in a moment of silence as we reflect on these lives lost. Thank you. Will you please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're now at section 3.0. Will the secretary please call the roll?
Present. Present.
Present.
Present.
Present.
Thank you. We're now at section 4.0, the adoption of the agenda. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce the agenda?
I'd be happy to. Consistent with the plans established at your 2016 Summer Planning Workshop, tonight's agenda contains several elements related to both the district's strategic plan and the board's annual goals. There is a segment for routine business, one for recognition items, a segment for strategic progress reporting, one for information items, a segment for new business, and one for upcoming agenda items, and one for board comments. Since publishing the agenda, no items have been updated, although we will update item 8.1, the superintendent's report, during the meeting as is customary for regular meetings. The board may elect to change the order of business by a majority vote of the members.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cohn. I'm going to respectfully ask for board members to consider a couple of amendments to tonight's agenda. And I'd like to walk through those right now. I'm going to ask that we move section 5.01, recognitions, to the end of the agenda. And I'm also going to respectfully ask the board to consider the removal of 3 items of business off the agenda for tonight's meeting. The first item is to remove item 11.01. This is the second audience comment period. The second item is to remove section 15.01, the board superintendent comments and meeting evaluation. And the third item to remove is section 16.01, the executive and closed session. So I would first like to make a motion to approve the amendment to move section 5.01, the recognition section, to the end of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
I'd like to make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. We will move that section to the end of the agenda. The second portion is to move the first, second, and third items that I mentioned, section 11.01, section 15.01, and section section 16.01 off the agenda for this evening. Is there a motion for that consideration? We will have one comment period.
No, I meant
No director or superintendent comments tonight.
After coming back from the conference. I don't know.
Okay.
That's going to be in.
The audience comment?
Just because we were.
We need you
Director.
to speak into the microphone, Director Mason.
Okay. I would still like to hold the audience comments. You never know when someone from the public would show up and would like to make a comment. That second comment after the meetings, the strategic progress monitoring and the information and discussion section, there may still be some member from the public who wishes to make a comment.
Any other comments?
We did not give them enough time to know that that comment section would be taken off. And so they may show up and wish to make a comment for whatever reason they have. And giving them that opportunity, if we announced it beforehand, it would be something. But to have not have announced it beforehand, they may not know.
Other comments on the proposed motion? So I'm hearing retain the second audience comment portion of the agenda to retain the superintendent comments, but to remove the 16.01, the executive and closed session.
I would be okay removing the superintendent director comments for a later meeting.
So you want to remove that now?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's fine. If other directors are in agreement.
So then I would entertain a motion to remove section 15.01, which is the board superintendent comments, and 16.01, executive and closed session, but retain the first item, which is 11.01. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Andrews to remove section 15.01 and section 16.01, but to retain the second audience comment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries. Now we will now vote on the amended agenda. Is there a motion to accept the amendments to the agenda, which includes both the recognition being moved as well as the previous motion that was accepted?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's been a motion by Director Lassane and seconded by Director Mason to accept the amendments to the agenda. Is there any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. The agenda is adopted. We're now at section 5.0, the public comment section. The school board specifically sets aside 2 times during the regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and we want to hear and understand the perspectives that you bring to the table. Dr. Cohn, are there any requests for comments during this first public comment agenda time slot?
There is.
All right. The entire board welcomes you to the public meeting. It is important that all understand how this portion of your school board meeting works and how it is conducted. Here are the 3 reminders for those who have not attended a board meeting before but would care to address the board. The superintendent will call you to the podium to speak in order in which you signed up to speak tonight. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. All comments are recorded, so the board will have the opportunity to access everything that is said tonight. Repetition is not necessary, and it cuts into the time of others to have to speak. The public comments are part of the agenda is for the board to listen and to hear what you have to say. It's not for debate nor discussion. Board members do not respond to individual comments. School board meetings are designed to be conducted in public for the school district's business. We welcome your ideas, your opinions, presented in that same spirit. As board president, I have the responsibility to ensure the meeting and all conversation and business actions are orderly, productive, and respectful. Thank you in advance for helping me do this. Dr. Cohn, would you like to bring forward the first public comment?
We have one request tonight. It's from Wendy Birchill. If Wendy would approach the lectern, she wishes to address the board this evening on suicide prevention policy. and she indicates that she works for a business located in the district and therefore qualifies for the board's under the board's public address policy. When, excuse me, I'm going to have to start this again. The green light signifies the start of your 3 minutes. Actually, it will when I hit the button again. The yellow, a 30-second warning, and the red, the expiration of your time.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Wendy Birchall, and I actually work for the Snohomish Health District. I'm a healthy community specialist, and I work on injury prevention, and I focus on suicide prevention and youth physical abuse prevention. And Dr. Gary Goldbaum actually asked me to come and represent the Health District today and read a letter of support for your proposed suicide prevention policy. So I'm just going to read that letter that we've drafted. Dear members of the Everett School District Board of Directors, I'm writing to express my wholehearted support of the Everett School District's suicide prevention policy. You all appreciate how much time students spend in school. Teachers and others who interact with students are in a prime position to recognize the signs of suicide risk and to make appropriate referrals. However, school personnel need training to help them build the skills and confidence to identify and assist vulnerable youth in seeking help. School policies that address suicide prevention and intervention help to eliminate confusion over educator roles and the referral process. Such policies empower school personnel to better support students and families at risk and those who are affected by suicide. In 2014, the Snohomish Health District released a comprehensive community health improvement plan to address 3 priority health issues: obesity, youth physical abuse, and suicide. One of the best practice strategies identified to reduce youth suicide was to promote schools adopting behavioral health curriculum that includes suicide prevention. We are grateful that the Everett School District has been proactive in recognizing suicide prevention as a priority. Implementing the proposed suicide prevention policy is an important step toward reducing the number of youth who die by suicide. The Snohomish County Healthy Youth Survey data tells us that 24% of 10th graders have been bullied in the past 30 days, and 28% of 10th graders reported being abused by an adult on purpose. In addition, 21% of 10th graders reported seriously considering suicide. 36% reported being severely depressed, and 30% reported not having an adult to turn to when feeling sad or helpless. These are all kids in our schools. These are kids dealing with stress, feelings of hopelessness, and trauma every single day. Thank you for recognizing the need to implement a suicide prevention policy and making a commitment to creating a safe, supportive school environment for those who are struggling with thoughts of suicide. And let me also extend an invitation to partner with the Snohomish Health District to provide support and resources to help implement the proposed suicide prevention policy.
Thank you, Wendy. We appreciate your comments. Thank you so much. Do we have any other public comments?
We do not.
All right. We're now at section 6.0 of the consent agenda. Dr. Cohn, will you please introduce the consent agenda?
Yes, the board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items. These include, for example, meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, and recurring contracts. Sometimes the consent agenda will include items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. The less frequently occurring consent agenda items are usually reviewed by the board in its Friday report 1 or more weeks before the board meeting when those items are scheduled to appear on the consent agenda. This gives directors time to ask staff questions about those items or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. If a consent agenda item is removed by the concurrence of 2 directors, that item is placed in new business and the remaining items are automatically renumbered. The board then votes on the consent agenda with a single motion, and the consent agenda is not subject to debate. In this case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office has received no questions or comments regarding these items.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Cohn. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved by Director Lesane and seconded by Director Mitchell to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no requests, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries. We're now at section 7.0, the superintendent's report. Dr. Cohn.
We are indeed, and I think we're going to get the video switched here. Okay, thank you. All right, the pictures that you see on the first part of the superintendent's report this evening, as soon as it comes up on the screen, good, are of the Everett High School students who were invited to be part of the King TV morning show this Saturday to talk about their school-wide food drive. They will feed over 200 families this year and have raised over $12,000 to do it. They had a community drop-off yesterday, and this morning King TV came out and covered the students unloading and creating food baskets. Your agenda highlights tonight include a 24 credit plan progress report. This is an update on our plan to address the 24 credit graduation requirements, including field testing several solutions and models, and the plan to offer some next steps. The board will also receive a brief presentation on the current fiscal status within our funds. The information provided for this item is based on the companion consent agenda item that is your acceptance of the financial reports as of August 31, which is the last month of our fiscal year. This report's the final report for the 2015-16 fiscal year and summarizes the more detailed information that we file with the Office of the Superintendent of Public Instruction under that form that we refer to as the F-196. I want you to know that the Hour of Code is coming, or beyond the Hour of Code. Code.org is going to be at the Community Resource Center on Monday, December 5 from 5:30 to 7:30. Students, staff, and community members are going to be able to code together in the Resource Center. This event brings a lot of folks together to learn how to code and how coding fits into the instructional materials, the models, the curriculum that we offer here in the district. We are now at the point where we offer coding at all of our schools, and we're very, very excited about that. And I have to tell you, for those of you who were here last year, it is very well worth your time to come and observe that activity. Kids are very excited, and I have to tell you, the adults are very excited as well. We had a number of Veterans Day observations in the district. Actually, every one of our schools throughout the district honored veterans, and it was done in a variety of ways, from school assemblies to poster contests to musical events. At Lowell Elementary School, students participated in a poster contest. The winners received a certificate and a ribbon, had their photo taken with Principal Foster, and published in the Lowell Times. Director Lassane and I attended ceremonies at Gateway Middle School, where the middle school orchestra performed for the first time with the band and the choir. We had a really nice time. Yes. Want you to know about the Latino Family Conversation that's coming up November 28th. We've invited parents and guardians to join us for a dinner and conversation on the 28th here in the CRC to explore ways to support our Latino students toward their graduation and post-secondary success goals. 75 adults and 48 children have already registered to attend the event, so we're not promoting anymore right now because the room won't hold all that many people, but we expect more to attend. You will recall possibly that we've already held a Native American family conversation and an African American family conversation, and we're planning a few more of those this year and next year, all aimed at creating networks of support so that we're able to raise those ethnic graduation rates above the 90% that we achieved on the 5-year rate year before this last one. This last year's not published yet, and keep pushing toward 100%. The district's first AP Summer Institute has been approved by the College Board. We're going to offer 5 sessions this summer. They're going to be at Jackson High School. We're very much looking forward to our teachers, plus teachers from around our region, participating in the Summer Institute. And we're hoping to work with folks in the community, some restaurants and some hotels, because we expect this to grow, and we expect to be able to create a little bit of a tourism event here in our community. So as soon as we know more about that, we will let you know. The Alternative Routes program for certification of candidates this year, our first time through, has 12 candidates. It's a secondary teacher education program. It's a partnership between Western Washington University's College of Education and Everett, Mount Vernon, Burlington school districts. It's designed to support classified staff who possess rich life and professional experiences in their quest to become teachers. So the objectives that they meet state and district certification endorsement requirements so that they can teach in secondary content areas and ELL or bilingual education. So we've got 12 candidates, and we're looking at the possibility of including more folks in the region and expanding participation in that because, as you well know, there is a teacher shortage across the state and the nation, and this is one of the ways that we can not only address that, but we can also aim some of our efforts at staff of color so that we can improve the diversity of our teacher corps. Want to let you know that the first set of the 2016 bonds has been sold. We did this last week, and we sold $50 million of bonds to be able to begin those projects that were approved by the community on the 2016 bond. We'll sell 2 more sets, about $50 million and about $49 million, and we were able to secure solid rates thanks to the increase of the district's rating by the Moody's company. I want to thank Jeff Moore's finance team and all the folks from the organizations that work with us, from investment advisors to brokers to our bond counsel. This was a superb activity, and I will tell you that they've told us that the rating increase made our issue more attractive than some others who had to sort of wait in line as a result of the nature of the market post-presidential election. Actually, we would like to have been able to get out there before the election, but we couldn't move that quickly. And the market is a bit volatile following that election. We'll see what happens over the next couple of years. I want to let you know that we're going to go ahead and proceed with field upgrades at Cascade and Jackson High Schools. We're going to move forward on replacing the turf on those football fields. The project cost is expected to be around $4.25 million. You all have approved that in the budget. We'll be bringing you some bid information a little bit later on. This is a pair of projects that we've been waiting to get finished for some time, and I'm delighted that we're able to move forward with these synthetic tracks at these two schools. These funds come from non-bond revenues from either state construction assistance funds or other funds that we collect into the capital fund. We're also moving forward on the signage project, the completion of both the Memorial Stadium and the Community Resource Center signage. The old electronic reader board that's out there on Broadway is going to be replaced, and we're going to finally mark this building with some signage that is visible from Broadway and the freeway. You will note after we're done that Everett Public Schools will anchor the south entry to Everett very visibly, and Washington State University and Everett Community College will clearly anchor the north entry to the city, very clearly marking Everett as a city that values education coming and going. Sorry, couldn't resist that. Hawthorne Playground dedication scheduled for December 10th due to the generosity of a number of folks in the community. Hawthorne's play structure is being built, and you'll be able to join folks in the community for a ribbon cutting ceremony sometime between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. We're not entirely sure yet. We'll be getting more information to you, but mark your calendars for December 10, and we'll be getting you more information from the PTA and the school. You've got a special meeting coming up on the 29th. You're going to be actually engaged in a workshop. We'll be planning your community engagement work for the rest of the year with you, and then you've got a regular board meeting coming up on December 6th. It promises to be fairly substantive, given we have one meeting in December, and then you're off for winter break December 19th through January 2nd. That's my report. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Dr. Cohn. That's a good report.
Thank you.
What's going on? We're now at section 8.0, the strategic progress monitoring, and tonight we're going to receive an update by Dr. Scott and Dr. Willard on 24 credit progress to date. Welcome.
Thank you very much. So Jeannie and I appreciate the opportunity this evening to discuss progress to date on 24 credits. What we intend to accomplish in this presentation is to provide an update of developments since the last presentation, including a description of what we think are some unique field testing strategies designed to ensure that students have the greatest opportunities to meet the impending 24 credit requirement. We'll also provide an overview of next steps, exploring future structural and scheduling adjustments. You see here the key performance outcomes largely live in the teaching and learning area, which is no surprise. Jeannie's going to lead us through the content of the status update, which you can see here from the outline will entail a bit of background about where we've been, progress to date relative to the work of our 24 credit task force, our field testing pilots addressing those requirements, emerging recommendation developments, and next steps. So Jeannie?
Thank you, Peter. Our background, and we've been following up on waivers across the state, and this has been ongoing work for the last 2 years. All of this started with our Senate Bill 6552, and we've been engaged in working with our schools to identify the best way to move forward on our 24 credits. We determined about a year ago that we needed to postpone delivering that for our class of 2019, for the class of 2021, so that we could build more systems and structures to ensure that all students could graduate. So in January, we actually filed that waiver, and we've been moving forward and working very tightly as a team to work on what that will mean for who are now our 8th graders and all of the students in the grades below who will have 24 credits needed for graduation. We've been sharing and communicating what those graduation requirements will mean. This is a document we've been sharing at the schools and in all of our high school and beyond planning materials. It outlines the 24 credits, highlighting that we will have increases, especially in the arts area. World language will increase, that we will have options for students, especially in those 2 areas that I highlighted, all that total in 24 credits. We've been working forward based on some pilots that we engaged in planning this fall. So this timeline shares this year and the work that we have been engaged in. In September and October, we met as a team, and that team consists of teachers from all of our 4 high schools, middle school teachers. We have counselors from middle school and high school. We have our EEA president there. We have administrators from our high schools. We have some central office support staff there also. In September and October, we worked on developing pilots based on all of the previous work that we've done to think about what it is that our students will need to have in place in order to ensure they have an opportunity to earn 24 credits. You'll see that we have tonight a board presentation, and then we will circle back to you in the spring to share our work to date then in May. In the spring, highlighted there and will be part of this presentation this evening, is that we will be implementing pilots that we'll detail a little bit later. We are working towards recommendations. When I was last with you in the spring, we shared that there were 85 districts across the state that had filed a waiver to postpone the graduation requirements until the class of 2021. It increased by 3. There are 3 districts listed there, and that actually raised the percentage of students who are in high school right now that will be impacted by that waiver to 52%. It was previously 51%. So we see the majority of students across the state will actually not start the 24 credit requirement until our current 8th graders join our high schools. We engaged in the waiver to allow more time to ramp up and to make sure we had those systems in place. One of the key data points that we had shared in the past is that currently our students are graduating such that about 60% are earning 24 credits when they graduate. And that doesn't necessarily mean that they're in the right buckets, that they're in the right placement for their graduation requirements, which we've shared in the past also, but we work towards that, and we know that as the graduation requirement increases that we will be there to receive it, and we will have many opportunities. We're working on that currently, but we also believe that students will rise to that occasion, but we need to meet them there as well. As we move forward, and part of the reason why we delayed the requirement was to make sure we followed the legislature. Every year we have changes to our graduation requirements, not just in this grand way, but in little ways also. Also, we don't work independently. We work with our students, our community, our families. with all of our staff to make sure that anything that we build out for our schools really helps everyone work better together. So engaging everyone will be a piece, not just from the past, but moving forward if we make any larger changes. We continue to communicate the 24 credit graduation requirement. We follow other districts about what requirements they have in place. And then we will always need more time to make sure that we have time to bargain whatever implications, recommendations as we move forward as a team. Our progress to date, because we've been here several times, and this is work that isn't just part of our 24 credit team, but also our on-time graduation team, is that we developed many communications that show up in Naviance on our webpage, many documents that we share with students and families, especially in those transition meetings between middle school and high school. We've launched sheltered and scaffolded courses for our EL students and our high schools to support them so that they have the extra help in biology especially, and our math classes where there are assessments to graduate. We redesigned our college and career readiness seminar course where you see students actually apply for college and receive help in completing scholarships, and then also job applications and thinking about what colleges and careers that they are interested in the future. We implemented Naviance. This is our third year, surprisingly. We keep moving forward. Our middle schools are really where we're focused right now to make sure that we have a seamless plan, grades 6 through 12, where students have experiences that build on each other. We increased our course equivalencies 3 years ago. We had 8 course equivalencies. We are well over 30 classes that qualify as a course equivalent course. And what that means is that one class counts in 2 graduation requirement areas. And so this benefits students in allowing them to have flexibility to be able to take more electives in their classes, in their schedule. We have expanded the school year and summer program interventions, so you see more after school, more Saturday programming, more during the day offerings for credit recovery, and then our summer programs keep adding different components for acceleration, different ways we get at credit recovery, and ways that we engage, especially our seniors, to make sure that they're on track to graduate, if they have not in June, by August. We've revised our graduation policy, and you will also be seeing that again because we will see the class of 2021 will now show up in the policy. And we have built a more inclusive task force, so a larger team that we're working together on solving these issues. This year, we've developed 5 pilots to address our defined problem, and you can see it there in the box in orange to the right. And we're planning to implement those pilots in second semester. So we've been working on those plans. It actually comes out of last year's work, but this year we put those to practice in articulated plans, action plans, shared them with our teammates in that task force, gathered feedback. Schools have gone back and they're starting to work out some of the kinks and details about how to implement those pilots. So addressing that problem statement is, how do we create flexible options and access for students to earn 24 credits in the right buckets? So those are those graduation requirements to serve our diverse student populations, honoring students with various post-secondary goals while maintaining our very high standards. So in addition to those pilots, and I'll share more about those, we also have a workshop planned in January to work with Dr. Mike Reddick, who is an international expert on school scheduling. He'll be sharing a lot of background that we've been curious about, lots of questions have been prompted, and we need to go deeper in that area. And then we've planned progress checks to monitor the pilots and also to keep following up on what we feel needs to happen. Our pilots are really the highlight of the school year's work in terms of our task force. What you will see is that the pilots fall into different categories. They're not very different in some ways, but they are nuances of some of the themes that we've seen from our work. So for Cascade, Everett, and Jackson high schools, what you will see there is that they're exploring a 7th period for a few of our students, particularly our 9th and 10th grade students who have failed some of their core classes, where that 7th period will really give them an opportunity to make it up, the entire second semester with our certificated teachers and a very thoughtful, intentional practice. And you see variations of this. Some of them are happening 3 days a week in a longer class period. We will have additional transportation that goes along with that. We even have an opportunity where there will be problem-based learning inserted into that credit recovery piece. So it really adds a layer of engagement that will take place with students. For Sequoia High School, they already have a practice of advisories for their seniors, where they have a team, including their teachers, who sit down and really analyze where students are, look at the whole student in terms of their social and emotional well-being. They're extending that work and including their 9th through 11th graders. We're able to offer subs and some support that will allow all of their students to be addressed through that practice. And then our middle schools have been engaged this year in their own on-time graduation work, where they've been looking at their social emotional well-being and really working through what would really support individual students. They are going to work on how they communicate those pieces of information while students are transitioning from middle school to high school. So they're working on some of the systems to support what they know about students already in middle school before they arrive to high school. In January, as a team, we'll be working with Dr. Mike Reddick, who I mentioned was an international expert in school scheduling. He's going to bring forward a lot of themes. He's there to basically give us an overview of how schools work through addressing instructional needs, both for credit recovery and also advancing and accelerating students in order to get to 24 credits. He has a lot of experience in looking at flexible schedules. He has a wealth of knowledge. He has ideas about block scheduling, drop period schedules, a whole slew of ideas. And our team was very curious about how these work and how they actually help and benefit kids in terms of not just achieving 24 credits, but how students learn better in those environments. And one of the themes we took away from our pre-meetings with Dr. Reddick is that change takes time. Our next steps are really to monitor those 5 pilots, and you can see they're variations of each other largely. We'll explore our school scheduling, which has been a theme we've had since day one of looking into 24 credits. We'll continue to learn from the other schools and districts around us. We're going to continue to communicate our new graduation requirements because even with 22 credits, we still communicate what those details are. It's always very complicated to know what it takes to get there. We'll explore what it means to expand and actually maybe have focus groups so that we include student and family voice in all of our thinking and then later our decision making as well. And then we will work towards, at the end of the year, developing formal recommendations based on the pilots and the research that we do so that we ensure high quality solutions for our students. So I was able to share with you our 24 credit background, all of the work that we've done as a task force to date, including the planned pilots, our continued school scheduling research, and then how we plan to address our next steps to ensure that over the next few years we have everything in place so that students can graduate on time.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Willard.
You're welcome.
Directors, it's now time for questions. We've set aside 10 minutes for questions. Are there any questions?
I have a question, and I'm sorry if I should have known something sooner, but how are you doing a 7-period pilot in a 6-period day?
Yeah, so what we will do is we will add a period for a few students. The idea is that we will meet with students, so this is we, the royal we, sitting down with individual students and their families. There are plans to have commitment letters so that they're offered this so that they can make up the credit that they would have failed first semester. And then once they've been selected and the student and the family have decided that that's how they want to proceed, they'll be scheduled into the 7th period, which will take place after school. And there are variations of what that will look like. And one might be 3 days a week where the period is extended, so it would be the equivalent of a full week's worth of class. And they will have a teacher just like they would during the school day and have a schedule that supports that. And then we'll have transportation for them to get home. But there's variations, little nuances to how exactly that happens too.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Other questions?
Along the lines of scheduling, how do you, I mean, you can't test a block plan in a school.
Yeah.
And how do you make comparisons between the pilots that you're going to be looking at and alternatives that we just truly can't test, given that awkward one school won't work?
We haven't solved whether we're going to move forward with the block scheduling. One of the pieces that kept showing up in all the feedback from all the task force members was 7th period. So that seemed very doable and addressed some or the few students who might need it immediately, especially a second semester or something that we could continue without a large expense and an overhaul to our schools. We don't know yet whether we will truly be able to test out a block schedule, but what we are hoping by having Dr. Reddick come here is that he can speak to, because he has done this work extensively, is he's going to speak to those changes, and then in that process he's going to give us clear examples of other districts that have encountered that change. We have definitely spent time with districts near us and their experiences, and it has taken an extended period of time to really go through the motions of not just making the schedule changes, but all the things that go with it. It changes instructional practices and so forth. So we're not necessarily posing that we will have a pilot of that, but we definitely need to do deeper thinking, because that would be a much more extensive and expensive and would also affect people in a very different way to go about block scheduling or to even do a radical schedule change of any kind. Right. So we're not quite there for even changing our pilots or to even pilot that, but we know we need to go deeper because it kept coming up.
And have there been conversations around switching that 7-period schedule where the students that need the extra help come early in the morning and the other students come later, with the research of delaying start times?
We have had that as a conversation, but because it affects transportation for all students, not just high school students, if we were to start later for most of the students in high school, it is one of our thinking pieces, but we haven't gone there yet. We're going to start with just trying the after-school piece because it has the least effect on changing the schedules as they are, but it is definitely something that we have considered.
Thank you.
I essentially have 3 questions, but they all are interrelated. So my question is, when we consider a 7th period for kids that are struggling, most kids are struggling maybe in math or science, the core kind of classes, not the CTE kind of or elective classes so they can get extra credit. How will that affect perhaps their core classes and testing and scheduling at different times when they're able to get those the next level class and those core classes and be prepared and ready for them?
So I'm sorry, I want to make sure I'm clear. So the classes students do fail the most are typically Algebra 1, Coordinated Science, and English 1. Those are, they are not super high failures, but they are more proportionally failed than other courses. The other part to your question, I'm not sure I followed that. Would you repeat it? I'm sorry about that.
How might that affect those classes, math, science, and English, might affect especially a 9th grader who may fail a class and then being prepared and ready to take the next class in 10th grade? If he's going to miss a semester, maybe miss 2 semesters, and then what happens when he gets behind or he or she gets behind for the follow-on class? How are we going to accommodate those students so that we can continue to get them through graduation?
So in part, the pilot does address, I believe, what your question is, which is that right after first semester, if students have failed one of those classes, we will work with them to have them in that 7th period, so they will no longer be behind. They will actually be earning credit in that area and learning the skills, let's say in Algebra 1 or Coordinated Science. And what that's doing is that's catching kids up right away, just in time, rather than delaying the credit recovery or another opportunity to take that class until summer, if they take a credit recovery class then, or even waiting till the next school year in order to make that up. So it's actually a way to intervene so that kids don't get very far behind, not just in terms of credits, but also in terms of what they've learned.
So they essentially won't be repeating the class then. There'll be, is sort of a tutorial program so they can keep at the same pace or
yeah, so they can keep up with their cohort. They will, so let's say they fail Algebra 1 first semester.
Okay.
So we don't wait in this year where we have the pilot, we will place them in the 7th period, and so they'll be making up Algebra 1 during second semester. While they're probably taking the second semester of Algebra 1, these are details that will get fine-tuned about what it will mean if a kid has already failed and they're sitting in the other at the same time. But then they will essentially be receiving that additional instruction that day while they go through the school year. So by the end of the school year, they will have completed successfully Algebra 1 first semester and second semester.
I think this really depends, the answer to the question depends a great deal on the individual youngster and the schedule. Sure. The value of the 7th period is, frankly, 28 to 24, just like right now we have 24 to 22. So today, if we've got 22 credit requirements and we've got 24 opportunities, they've got a 2-credit margin. In this case, you end up with a 28 credit opportunity set against a 24 credit requirement. So you got a little bit more margin for error. And for a number of kids, that margin for error is particularly important. So the mechanisms and the systems that we put in place, I wouldn't suggest are dramatically different from 7 to 6. I mean, you could look and see how Bellevue Public Schools operates that today, or you could go to another school district where they're operating a block schedule to see specifically what's happening in those schools. It's, in our case, the ability to apply our systems at the level we operate them to this different schedule, which is typically a much more expensive schedule. That's our greatest concern on a 7-period day.
Okay. And what about those kids that may work after school? Do we provide any kind of work-based learning so they can pick up additional credits that way?
We do. Career choices, we do have offerings. So the students are in an internship or they're employed, they can earn credit. So you'll see John Barhanovich and Jen Chambers, they're out there working with students where they can earn credit that way too. Absolutely.
And my last question, you said we would be providing transportation for kids that are in those 7th period classes. Do you have any idea how much that's going to cost, and are we going to be able to accommodate that?
Right now, I'm expecting that it will cost us about $15,000, and we have a separate budget allocated for our 24 credit pilot, and that was built into it as well.
Thank you.
Director Andrews?
Have we looked at online learning as an alternative to the 7-period day, 7th period?
We have talked about online learning, and it definitely keeps showing up because we're on the cusp of actually implementing our one-to-one, right? Next year we'll start this. It is a through line in our conversation, but one of the learnings that we've had for many years, especially around fuel ed, which is what we use for credit recovery, is that we have had kids sign up and try the credit recovery on their own and have the ability to have a laptop and the device in front of them, and they're not very successful without having a hybrid format where an adult is working with them. Students often, when they're struggling, really do need an adult. It's not just for the skills, but the relationship, the motivation to make it through the course. And so in this case, where the 7th period would exist, we will see fuel ed used in that case. It's our online delivery model for credit recovery, but having the teacher there makes all the difference. So yes, we have, but especially kids who are struggling, having an adult there really matters. Mm-hmm. They're almost entirely successful if someone's there, but on their own, it's hit or miss.
So my question is, so I think Dr. Cohen kind of touched on this, but is the plan to implement the 7-period day to all students eventually, or just to keep it for the students who need extra help?
That is what we're working through. So we're going to start with the pilots just for a select group of students, and then we're going to unpack more so with Dr. Rettig during January workshop to see how far we want to go with that, because the expense, the change to schedules for all students will be extensive, and we'll need a lot more feedback than just our team in order to get there. So this is our first step to exploring that.
These are great questions. I know we have an update to the pilots at our May 9th board meeting, so yes. We're assuming you're going to be back and you'll be reporting on the pilots.
It'll be exciting. I can't wait. No,
we're going to find out what worked and what didn't work.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you, Ted.
All right. Thank you, Jeannie. Thank you, Peter. We're now at section 9.0. This is our fourth quarter financial update. As Gary reported earlier, we have concluded our fiscal year, but Ruth Lloyd is here to report on our fourth quarter financials.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to wrap up the 2015-16 district operations for you today as part of our quarterly financial review and in support of the district's long-term financial planning. I'll provide an overview of 5 funds with some additional information and more details on the general fund. As expected, general fund revenues exceeded expenditures. Revenues of $235.4 million and expenditures were $228.7 million. And then there was also a transfer from Capital Projects Fund in the amount of $1.3 million. That created a total ending fund balance of 8.9% of expenditures, which does exceed our 5% target in board policy. A major driver of state revenues is enrollment. Our annual average FTE enrollment was above budget by 135 FTE. And as you can see on the graph there, there was a large increase from the prior year. A portion of that, though, relates to transitioning to full-day kindergarten at several schools. Total revenues and transfers were $236.7 million. And the revenues did follow a typical pattern for the year. However, there were factors that contributed to higher revenues, including taxes, higher taxes, increased enrollment, K-3 class size funding, which went up more due to being able to include specialists in the ratio, in the K-3 ratio, as we've talked about before. And then transportation revenues increased mid-year after our work with OSPI in the fall. Expenditures were $228.7 million, well within our board authorized appropriations. You can see the increase in April and again in July and August due to social studies adoption and equipment purchases that we did in the spring, as well as end-of-year items such as summer school, professional development, and leave cash-outs. Factors contributing to lower expenditures than expected in the budget include special education, transportation costs being lower, utility costs being lower, and several other factors. As discussed before, our ending fund balance was at $20.4 million at the end of August and also the end of the fiscal year. That's 8.9% of expenditures. And then our unassigned fund balance was about 7.1% of total expenditures, which exceeds the 2.5% target that's in board policy. This rebuilds fund balance after a planned drawdown in prior years and provides capacity to smooth the effects of a possible levy cliff in 2017-18 fiscal year. As we've previously discussed, fund balance includes different restrictions, commitments, and assignments, including grants, school, and food service carryovers. The total of these restrictions, commitments, and assignments were higher than the prior end of year by about $400,000. Our fund balance does fluctuate over time, as can be seen in this graph comparing total fund balance and unassigned fund balance over the course of 10 years or so. On to our other funds. We have 4 other funds that I'll be discussing. Capital Projects fund balance ended at about $19.6 million, which included $13.1 million in revenues, $9 million in expenditures, and the $1.3 million that was transferred from Capital Projects to General Fund. The
revenues can be seen graphically here, with tax revenues being received in the fall and the spring. And expenditures are not as consistent from year to year due to the ebb and flow of project expenditures. Fund balance has been stable over the past 3 years, but you'll see it fluctuate more in the coming year, beginning in 2016-17 due to the new capital levy, a bond sale, as well as related project expenditures. Debt service fund supports the payment of long-term principal and interest on debt. We ended the year with about $9 million, and that was expected as budgeted. ASB fund balance ended up at about $1.67 million, with generally consistent fund balance over the past 3 years, or not consistent, a consistent pattern over the past 3 years. And finally, transportation vehicle fund ended with about $221,000. We did not purchase any buses in 2015-16. There is a plan to do so in the following year. And other than that, I am finished here. So do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, Ruth. Do we have any questions for Ruth?
I do have a question, if I may. What is considered an appropriate funds balance percentage for associated student body account?
That is, I don't know what an appropriate one is. I know that we don't have a board policy that states what it has to be. It should be enough to carry forward enough money to begin operations for the next fiscal year. Some of the schools, as you can see, the fund balance has gone up the past few years, and some of the schools could do with reducing that if they needed to and wanted to.
Yeah, I've met with the principals of the high schools, and I'm meeting with the ASB officers, and they are hearing the board's message about reducing their fund balances and spending the resources on kids. I don't think we'll need to move to a board policy on an ASB fund balance.
We had that discussion at when they presented their budgets. Yeah.
And they're hearing it at our breakfast meetings, and I've met with the principals individually on that, and I think the students are becoming far more pointedly aware of the amount of money in their funds and their fund balances now.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you.
Director Andrews.
In the capital fund,
Yes.
expenditures were budgeted at 18 million and we spent 9 million.
Mm-hmm.
What did we budget for that we didn't spend?
There were several factors that resulted in that. We did purchase some land, and we had expected to buy, we sold some land, but we had expected to also purchase some land, and that did not happen in last fiscal year, as well as there were some lower costs in technology projects. The Longfellow site work didn't happen to the extent that we thought it was going to, and future school planning also was budgeted at a higher amount than what was actually spent. So all those together created a significant decrease in expenditures.
I saw that difference. It's like, I should look back and figure this out, but great answer. Thank you.
Other questions? More of an observation. I know that the increase in our bond rating was due to a strong fund balance, and I appreciate your comments on slide 11 where we say we want to provide capacity to smooth the effects of the possible levy cliff. The reality is we don't know, and this is a pretty important legislative session, and so a strong fund balance allows us to navigate those waters. So,
correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think that history is pretty important, and I think noting that we went to the legislature this last session and pointed out the timing, the issues that we were confronting, the problems that needed to get fixed, and the legislature, especially the House, came, I think, very close to providing a fix, but they were not able to accomplish that. We then cut back a number of expenses, and we're basically trying to insure against for 1 year of that fund balance, because if the levy cliff isn't fixed, we'll step down about $5 million in 1 year and then another $5 million. We're buffering the $5 million a year to try to maintain momentum, with the hope that if they don't get it fixed this time, they'll fix it next time, as other districts start feeling the effects that don't have the capacity to provide that buffer like we do. And we're hoping, of course, it'll be fixed, and then we can invest in the equipment and the supplies and the materials that we really need to invest in. So this is a one-time insurance buffering activity for us.
Other questions? Thank you, Ruth. We appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Moore. We appreciate it. We're now at section 10.0. We've come to the second time slot in our agenda for public comments. Dr. Kohn, are there any requests for comments?
There are none.
All right. We're now at section 11.0, unfinished business, and we have no unfinished business scheduled for this evening, which brings us now to section 12.0, the approval of resolution 1140, a real estate purchase and sales agreement. Mr. Gunn, you're going to present that to us now.
I will do so. Thank you very much. So our tonight's objective is to present to you for your consideration and approval resolution 1140 for the purchase of 2 properties adjacent to some other property that we already own, that we will be planning to build a new elementary school on, and perhaps a future high school. The properties we're talking about tonight total approximately 3.04 acres, and the addresses, as you can see on the slide. Current owners are Van and Adriana Vorwerk. This is a site plan. North is to the right, so up would be west. The property that we currently own is just under 30 acres, and it's in this shape. This is the plan for future elementary school number 18, funded by the 2016 capital bond that was successful. The property that we're looking to have you approve the purchase of tonight is just over 3 acres, and it is to the north of our properties right here. This entire section here totals just under 15 acres. We would ultimately like to purchase that whole section. It's owned by individual owners, I think 4 or 5 different groups of owners in there. So this is one of those, which is a husband and wife team, and they own 2 properties right in here. So it's the Vorwerk properties that we are talking to you about tonight. Purchase price is $1,220,000. Some of the terms and conditions are shown up there. Earnest money was 5% of the purchase price, 180-day feasibility study period. With the feasibility study, the requirement that we put in there is that study has to meet the satisfaction of the school district. Closing no earlier than November 31st, nor later than May 1st. We plan, if you approve tonight, to close probably mid-December on that property. The market value appraisal for the 2 properties came in at $1,170,000, which is just under the actual purchase price of $1,220,000. We've confirmed with our legal counsel that meets the requirements of the RCW, the state legislature's laws that they've enacted to guide our operations, even though it is just over the appraised. The purchase price is just over the appraised value. We have completed a wetlands delineation and found no wetlands on this property, and conducted a hazardous materials inspection. The small amounts that you would expect in older farmhouses have been found. Some minor asbestos and I think some lead perhaps has been found. The funding for this property purchase again comes from the proceeds of the sale of the Colby property to the YMCA. And the funding for the construction of the new elementary school, number 18, is from the 2016 capital bond. So resolution 1140, which we're asking you to consider approving, ratifies the superintendent's execution of the purchase and sale agreement prior to this date, and authorizes and directs the superintendent or designee to do other things as needed to conclude the purchase of these properties. And so at this point, we would ask you for consideration and consideration for approval of this resolution.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Gunn. Any questions for Mike?
I just have a quick question. Can you remind me, because the purchase price is slightly over the market value, we are restricted, I believe, by law about how much over market value can go. So what is the percentage, and am I correct in that we are restricted in that?
There is a limit, certainly. There's not a specifically defined limit. We've been consulting with our attorneys all the way through this process. They actually said that they would feel comfortable with a difference of about twice or more of what we actually have. So the difference in the price between our appraised value and the purchase price was about $50,000. Our attorneys felt comfortable at probably 3 or 4 times that amount. Yes, you're welcome.
I just wanted to make a quick comment too that this is really a big bonus for us to have this property, to be able to access the property, the elementary school, not off of 180th Street, and having the students walking to school not on 180th Street. That
absolutely,
it's going to offer us that opportunity for both high school congestion when we have the opportunity to build a high school there as well, to take it off that main street. So
thank you for pointing that out. I didn't really make a point of that tonight, but you're right. The purchase of this property allows us the opportunity to build a pedestrian and a vehicular pathway from our property to the north to hit 174th, and takes a lot of our traffic off of 180th. And so it's a wonderful acquisition at this time for us.
Haven't seen 180th Street. Will we have to do or be required by the county to do any kind of major road construction on that road to modernize it, or to?
It's very likely we would be doing street improvements along our frontage. We don't expect to do any off-site improvements in that area on 180th. Typically, if there's not curb, gutter, and sidewalk along our frontage, we would be required to put it in, because this is the county's one opportunity to have us pay for it. To have any developer that.
So that would increase the total cost of the project, though, having to do any road modernization on that road.
It's those are costs that we have considered in our estimates for the projects.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Director Andrews.
In looking at the assessor's website, I saw that there are 3 residences on this property.
Yes, there are actually there are 2. This front property here has 2 houses and a barn, and then there's one more house on this section back here. So there are 3 houses on the property, and the value of the property, the appraised value, included those houses in those buildings in the appraised value.
So if we weren't utilizing this property right away, does the district rent those residences, or is that not really lucrative for us either?
We have in the past rented out properties when we haven't needed to use the properties for schools in the shorter term. I have found, though, that it's not a very good business for us to be in. We're in the business of education, not property managers, and so I would rather not be a landlord.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very nicely put.
Yeah, thank you.
And Mike, can you remind us the timeline for a new elementary 18 when we envision breaking ground? And
Yeah, we would open the school in the fall of 2019, and it would take just over a year, probably 14 months to construct. So we would be looking to be ready to go out for start construction about 14 months before then.
So we're looking at the fall.
I believe it's winter, this coming winter. I'm sorry, about a year from now is when we would be doing that. It takes quite a while to get through the conditional use permit process with the county, and we have to do that. We'll have to do a full evaluation of our site and for the permitting processes.
any other questions for Mr. Gunn?
I just have a comment. I was questioning, paying over the appraised value. I mean, it's a small amount we're paying, but in looking at the assessor's website, they have a projected value for next year, and actually the assessed value of both of these properties was estimated to increase by $67,000. So I feel like the $50,000 extra that is being paid is very nominal.
Thank you.
Moment. Thank you. Yeah.
So is there a timeline on purchasing the other properties necessary for the elementary and early school?
The other properties are part of ongoing negotiations, and we typically discuss that in executive session.
Good question, though. Good question. Good question.
Well, the recommended action then is asking for a motion to approve Resolution 1140, a real estate purchase and sales agreement as stated. Is there a motion to accept the recommendation as read?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second?
It has been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Mitchell to accept the motion approval of Resolution 1140, real estate purchase and sales agreement. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a big deal. We're now at section 13.0, upcoming agenda item. Dr. Cohn, what are the upcoming agenda items?
Item 13.1 is your special meeting that's scheduled for November 29. It is a work session. You will be working on fine-tuning your community engagement activities and plan for the rest of this year and into next year, but primarily this year. Item 13.2 is your regular meeting scheduled December 6th. You have 2 strategic progress monitoring items, a class of 2017 progress to graduation. Well, actually, you have one. As I recall, we moved the social studies implementation update until after the new year in order to reduce the size of this meeting, because you also have a couple of additional policies in addition to 2410, high school graduation requirements for first reading. You have 2 recognitions, the Board of Distinction Award and the Jackson High School Jazz Band, which will be here in the atrium for about a half an hour or so prior to the board meeting, playing for anyone who comes into the Community Resource Center, and then performing for the board at the start of the meeting. You have an update on collective bargaining. We're going to ask you to set some parameters for some contracts we need to negotiate this year. You'll be reviewing legislative priorities, and Dan Steele is expected to be here from the Association of School Administrators. You've got board reorganization. It's that time of year when you elect officers. You'll have a September and an October financial report, and I believe we've got a United Way agreement renewal scheduled for that meeting. That would be our current plans for your December 6th regular meeting. That concludes section 13.
How are you feeling?
A little worried.
We're now at section 14.0, a very special recognition, and I leaned over to Dr. Cohn during the one of the agenda items, and I said, "Is it a little worrisome that you have all these family members in the in the audience?" But this is really a time of celebration.
The answer was yes.
And we appreciate you making your way out for what we think is just a very special time and a very important recognition, not only for our district, but for the visionary leadership of one Dr. Gary Cohn. And so we have a number of speakers here tonight, both from family, administrative team, electeds, the nonprofit community, and we just want to thank you in advance for coming out and sharing this very special moment with us. This is truly a team victory, and we're very excited about that.
Do I get to use the timer?
No, you do not.
Checking.
I did share with Gary that he's just going to have to let go and let the evening flow and be comfortable with that. And if the seat becomes a little bit warm, then that's okay. So we're here to celebrate Dr. Gary Cohn, the WASA 2017 Superintendent of the Year. This is a huge, huge role. There are 295 districts in the state of Washington, and for this honor to be bestowed, this is the second time that our district has received this. Dr. Carol Whitehead was also a recipient of this. But we're saving the best for the last this evening, and I'm truly pleased and proud to lead tonight's recognition of Dr. Cohn, and want to thank all of you who have come out tonight for this very special recognition. Our district is fortunate to have chosen Dr. Cohn in 2009, and I know the board that chose him is here tonight, and they have some very special comments that they want to share. In his time with us, his visionary leadership and hands-on style have helped us grow as a district and as a system on 3 things: 100% graduation, the next 20% to standard, and 0 achievement gaps. And you see some of those numbers around this boardroom and around our district. He helped build upon our community's deep history to build a new image for our Everett Public Schools, one that looks into the future and what students need to be successful, and that's 21st century skills around collaboration, creativity, critical thinking, and many others, communication. But more importantly, those programs and services for students support the quality of the images represented, with quality, compassion, and a true focus on each and every student. Love of community and commitment to its children are central to any school superintendent's role, and we're very fortunate that Dr. Cohn and the other Dr. Cohn, Sue, who's in the audience tonight, displays that commitment, and so we're very happy that you are here. What we have on these slides is just what this award was asking for, and so if we can go to the next slide. These were things that were asked for within. Oh, what happened there? We're talking about a leader in the making. And so we'll let these slides run, and we have a shot of Dr. Cohn being sworn in. This is fantastic. Many of you know that Dr. Cohn is a visionary leader. When he first arrived to our district in 2009, we embarked on a 2-year journey to craft a new strategic plan. Many of you in this room participated in the process of that plan. It involved hundreds, literally, of community members, and the strategic plan built on building focused relationships. That this is a relationship between the schools and the communities and the businesses and a quality of life. You know, I'm often reminded that, you know, if you want to talk about economic development, talk about your public school system, because it really is important for economic development. Again, the process built upon the history of this region and built a foundation for current and future growth and success. The resulting strategic plan is a living and breathing document. It was a 10-year vision that is our true north today. With this framework, our schools continuously improved to meet high performance targets and to help prepare our students to be graduate, career, and college ready. There was also a focus on collaboration. I think many of us know that Dr. Cohn leads by example. He is crucial in developing and piloting the Washington Standards-Based Evaluation Framework and TPEP. He led the development of a new superintendent evaluation system throughout the state and helped guide superintendents and board members to use the framework for their districts. And I can tell you, going to a number of statewide and national conferences, Everett really is a leader in that area. Working with his leadership team, he prioritized professional development around the new teacher evaluation process and created a strategic rollout. Through partnership with our employee groups, we also have Learning Improvement Fridays. This allows staff to participate in professional development and collaborate support around student learning. And we support and collaborate with our community to strengthen these partnerships. Why is that important? Why is collaboration so important? We are fortunate that we enjoy labor peace in this district, and a lot of it has to do with the leadership of Dr. Cohn. The district's 9 different superintendent councils and several parent advisory groups engage stakeholders and work proactively to improve learning for each and every student. The district's comprehensive communications program helps our community understand and support each student's success. Another focus was each student. I love the shot of the beard. You've heard our mantra, 120 and 10, or 120 and 0. Quite simply put, it means that 100% of our students graduate. The next 20% of our students will meet or exceed state standards or federal standards, and there will be a 0% difference in the demography for our students. We made a point of shifting several years ago with many of the previous board members that are represented here tonight from all students to each student before Dr. Cohn became the superintendent. However, it has become under his leadership that each has truly become a rich and deep and powerful and transformational activity. We care about each student and their success within our district. While the results of this focus are evident in countless ways, perhaps the best known evidence is the end result, our continuously improving graduation rate, which has soared over the last 7 years. Our most recent unofficial graduation numbers, and I say unofficial because they have to be made official by OSBI, is 90.9 for our 4-year graduation rate and 94.7 for our 5-year graduation rate. And we have the highest English language learner graduation rate in the state. That's 295 districts. That's a big deal, folks. One of the steps in the superintendent evaluation process is really to be a change maker. And this is one of the things that we have really respected about the work of Dr. Gary Cohn. This year marks 125 years of Everett Public Schools. There's not a lot of institutions within our community that can say that. Dr. Cohn has helped us as a community and district build upon that history and rich legacy to take the next level so that each of our community's children have a pathway to learning and success. Dr. Cohn, the first Washington State's 2017 Superintendent of the Year, is the first to emphasize that this is not an award about an individual accomplishment. Yes, it's a big deal, and we want to recognize Gary for this leadership and vision, and it's a huge affirmation for every administrator, every staff member, and all the school teams who work their magic every day within our district to make this a reality. So congratulations to Dr. Gary Cohn, the 2017 Superintendent of the Year. We're so very proud, and we have a number of letters and speakers, but I ask that you join me in celebrating Dr. Cohn and his work. Congratulations. He doesn't get to say anything yet. We have a number of people that would like to say some words. And the first one is from someone that you know very close, who's a very good friend of our district, that I can tell you that when we had our day on the Hill, he said, Everett Public Schools, how does every district get to 90% graduation rates or greater? And that's from our governor, Governor Jay Inslee. Dear Gary, he writes, I am pleased to join with your colleagues, students, and many friends in congratulating you on being recognized as the Washington Association of School Administrators 2017 Superintendent of the Year. Under your leadership, Everett Public Schools is a high-performing district that is recognized statewide and nationally for student achievement. Despite increasing poverty and homelessness, Everett students continue to outperform the state on assessments in every subject, in every grade, and in many cases, surpass the state average in double digits. The district's high graduation rates and its distinction for the state's highest English learner graduation rates are just a few of the tributes of your work and guidance as superintendent. You are a champion for the needs of students, family, and staff, and I applaud your leadership on educational policies both inside and beyond the borders of your Everett Public Schools. You have a strong and influential voice in the state and are a torchbearer for public education. Again, congratulations on this well-deserved honor, and please accept my best wishes for your continued success in the years ahead. Very truly yours, Jay Inslee, Governor, State of Washington. We also have some important guests that have signed up and want to share in this very special celebration with us tonight and would like to share a few words with our community. When I call your name, if you could please come to the podium, and we will call you forward. I'm not sure if I saw Senator John McCoy step forward or not. Is he here? Well, we know that Representative June Robinson is from the 38th District. Representative Robinson, if we can have you come forward.
Well, good evening. Congratulations, Dr. Cohn. What an honor for you and for our school district and for our community. I am very proud to represent Everett and this school district in the state legislature, and the fact that you are such a leader and the district is such a leader makes my job a lot easier as I talk to my colleagues and work to implement good, sound school policy and financing. It's really makes my job a lot easier when I can talk about the success that we have here in Everett. So thank you to you. Thank you for that. And I will just say that you are an excellent advocate for the school district, for our community, and most importantly for our kids. I always know exactly what you want and where you stand. And again, that just makes my job easier. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Another individual who's been a champion for our district, and certainly when we went out on the 2016 bond and levy committee, he was the first one to sign up as an honorary co-chair, and that's our very own Mayor Ray Stephenson from the city of Everett. Mayor, please come forward.
Well, it's great to be here, and I want to add my congratulations, Dr. Cohen, for a job well done. I also think it's appropriate that you let the public speak 3 minutes, and they said I had 1 minute. But I know all of you know we are very fortunate to have such an incredible, highly respected leader, statewide leader, leading our district. It's no small task to provide oversight and direction to 20,000 students in the district. But I'll tell you, having 2 grandchildren in this district, I feel very honored that you're the superintendent. The other thing that I want to share, and I think Dr. Cohen would be the first to say this, that this work does not happen without an incredible school board, and our citizens have chosen wisely, an incredible staff, and I think most importantly, and I know that you embrace this as well, we have incredible teachers in this district. And on a personal note, I know this from my own experience, without a great life partner like Sue, none of this happens. And not only does your staff have to put up with you, she does as well. So I think really the congratulations go to her every bit as much as you. But again, I'm very proud of you. I know when you first, even before you came to the district, you came to see me. Your passion for the education of our children was evident. But most importantly, you wanted to know about the diversity of this community, and you have every day, every hour embraced all of us, and we appreciate that very much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor Stephenson. Well, this is kind of fun because we get to bring forward the former school board members who hired Dr. Cohn. And you know, many of the awards and accolades that our district receives today, we really as a school board stand on the shoulders of the great work that you really set as a vision for this district. And so thank you so much for being here. Thank you for choosing wisely. We hope we can do the same one day. Well, not too soon, of course. But I'd like to bring forward Sue Cooper, who I believe was on our school board 24 years? 24 years. Sue, former school board director, come on down.
25.
Oh, my.
Yeah, I think it was 25 because I was appointed. This is a real joy to be here to honor Gary and to celebrate this achievement. As Ray has pointed out, we know that it's not the individual, it's the team. And Gary, your leadership has been just exemplary. I was on the board is here, that hired Gary, and really from the first that we met Gary at the first interview, I think we could tell we had a winner. And I remember that day. My memory is that he came in with a notebook, a large notebook, and you could tell this was somebody who was going to be proactive, well prepared, just from the get-go, and that was the case, and I'm sure it still is now. Hearing all that the achievements and being still a very interested community member and involved in the knowledge of what the district is doing, I'm just so pleased and excited. Ray alluded to this, but from the very beginning, you, before you were even had your beginning day, Gary was in the community, learning about the community, connecting with the community. He appreciated all the work that had gone on before in the district with the direction and the outstanding staff and the leadership team. We've appreciated your leadership and just so pleased to be here to thank you and to congratulate you. And in my book, actually, you have been well-deserving of Superintendent of the Year for some of the challenges that you and your team have navigated. I went off the board in 2009, but following that, you had some pretty difficult challenges to navigate, you and your team, and it's much appreciated. You've done a wonderful job. Thank you, and congratulations.
Thank you, Sue. I would like to call forward Christy Dutton, and Christy still keeps her flag planted in public education as the executive director for our Everett Public Schools Foundation.
Yes. Well, thank you, and congratulations, Carrie. Wow, what an award, and I told him when he called with the news, it was a long time coming. He did come with a notebook, and I believe the pages of paper were placed in plastic protectors as well in that notebook. So he was able to flip through them quite quickly. But, we, like Sue said, we knew we had a winner when we sat down and talked with you. We also asked him, or told him, that we wanted to work hard. And some of us kind of regretted that as we went along, because, boy, we worked hard. But it was tremendous work, and worked together, and hard we did. Putting my hat on as executive director of the Everett Public Schools Foundation, we couldn't have a better partner in you, helping us target some of those things that we really need to think about, and assembling such a marvelous staff around you to help this district proceed, and to work with those who want to also help raise the bar for achievement in Everett Public Schools. So on behalf of our board of directors, thank you so much, and congratulations, and carry on. All right.
I'd like to call forward Karen Madsen. She's been a wonderful champion for our district.
Well, what a pleasure this is. I used to be able to come before an august group like this every other week and tell you all how proud I was of the work that you did, how impressed I was, how brilliant I thought you were, how incredible the focus of attention on each and every child made such a difference for kids. I don't get to do that anymore, and it's really a pleasure to be able to do that as part of this celebration. My awe has not decreased. Your numbers have gone nowhere but up. But what's most impressive is to think about each of the kids who has graduated, each of the kids who has come back when she thought she successfully dropped out. But no, she came back. Each of the kids for whom your work, and the work of all the people not in the room tonight has made such a difference. I was at a meeting, I shared a meeting with Dana Riley Black not too long ago, and they were talking, it was a science advisory committee, and they were talking about how to get groups of kids, young women or kids of color, involved in science. And I sat on my hands and my tongue for as long as I could, and finally I said, in Everett, which you've probably heard about, the focus isn't on getting groups of kids somewhere. The focus is on getting each student. And then Dana chimed in, and she's relatively new to the district, and she said, they meet periodically, and they talk about every single student one at a time and about what they're going to do to get to graduation. It's really quite remarkable, she said. And then somebody leaned over and said to me, you know, when you talk about each child, it makes me think of my niece. It doesn't make me think of girls, it makes me think of my niece. I said, right? Right? That's how that works. So Gary was just right. He said in his remarks in his speech, it's a privilege to serve as superintendent of Everett Public Schools and to work with so many truly remarkable professionals committed to ensuring each student graduates career and college ready. And I thought how self-effacing that is of him. But I also thought how true it is, because the rewards that we earn generally aren't all about us. The rewards that we earn generally are because we've had support at home, we've had support as a child, we have support from the people around us. We have people around us who will tell us the truth, who will sometimes flatter us but sometimes not, who will listen to us and learn from us and be taught by us, who will tell us when we're right and who will tell us when we're wrong, and then maybe change their mind and decide that we really weren't wrong after all, which has happened on more than one occasion. And so this award really is, as many of you have said, many who spoke before me, it's really about the whole district, and so congratulations to the whole district. But that having been said, there's something special about having the right person in the right place at the right time. And as my colleagues have mentioned, Gary was an exhausting interview. I think there was a notebook. I'm pretty sure there were plastic protectors, and I think there were tab dividers, too. Yeah, there you go. It was exhausting. In fact, I was sort of glad Sue was with him on one of those occasions, because we talked and we talked and we talked and we talked, and then we were pretty much done talking, but Gary wasn't. And so we talked some more and we talked some more and we talked some more, and then we stood up and we moved to the door and we talked some more and we talked some more, and finally Sue said, "Dear, I think it's time for us to leave." Okay, but then I want to tell them one thing about he was exhausting, and I can imagine, and I remember saying to the people that he was going to be working with, he's going to be exhausting. He's got so much energy. So I was right, wasn't I? Yeah, see how diplomatic they're being. He's got so much energy. But oh my gosh, the right person in the right place at the right time. I'm a chemist by training, and one of the things that I was always fascinated by in chemistry, probably mostly because I didn't understand it, was the whole concept of catalysts. In a chemical reaction, sometimes it can happen in a way different way because something else is present. So for example, in our body, the food we eat burns. It oxidizes just like fire burns in the air, but obviously at a much lower temperature, a much slower rate. But the process is exactly the same. But for the presence of that catalyst, it would burn us up. The catalyst allows things to happen that couldn't happen otherwise. And I think that's what Gary has done. I think all the ingredients are here, but I think he has allowed things to happen faster, with fewer resources, more efficiently, and much sooner. That's made a huge difference for lots of kids. And so congratulations, my catalytic friend.
Good luck following that, Mr. Peterson. I'd like to call forward Ed Peterson. And I have to tell you, as Ed's approaching, as a current school board president, you have all these former board presidents that are in the room, and you just feel like, God, you hope you get it right. So.
Oh, it is such a delight to be back and to visit. I got to attend, I think, one board meeting in this room. There were 30 meetings that led up to the hiring of a superintendent in 2009 because there were issues and the community was very concerned. And there were a number of challenges that were facing us, and they included things like the growing diversity in the community and the need for a good communication plan and an embrace of that diversity. There was a concern about getting us out of the courts. We were spending too much of the precious dollar for education dollar in legal matters. And there was a recognition that we were educating kids for a world that was different than we experienced in our own education. And how would we equip ourselves with somebody that could lead us strategically And I am a lover of strategic planning, and we've done this through my nonprofit work for many years, and I was absolutely delighted to bring on an expert, someone that had passion for strategic planning, understood it, had studied it, had written a thesis on it. And I think we see the benefit of that today with the results that we're achieving because we have been strategic. Led by a catalytic strategic thinker. The embrace of our community is something that this superintendent does better than anybody else. I attend a lot of community meetings and always have in my work, and I cannot match this man. He is out at all kinds of events, connecting with people. And his passion for the education of our children in this community leads every conversation he starts. And it's just fun to watch it because he's elevating the conversation to a level that we can access best practices and collaborations and resource development and generate the results in our schools that we all want. But I think more than anything, the item that I point to with Dr. Cohn is his work ethic. It would not be unusual for me to be getting messages at midnight as he's mulling over and thinking strategically about what's coming up next and positioning us for those new moves. I remember school board meetings that started at 4:30 a.m. and ended around midnight.
We got rid of those, Ed. Yeah, we got rid of those, but yes.
Well, I tried for 2 years as president, and I didn't get very far. There were both the issues involved, but also the commitment to detail and getting it right and working it through and getting to the conclusions. And you know, the ability to sustain the passion and implement it at all hours of the day and night is a hallmark. And we after 30 meetings, the 5 of us that were there and went through that process are convinced that we made the very best possible choice. And it's witnessed today with a long overdue and much deserved recognition as Superintendent of the Year in the state of Washington. Congratulations, Gary. We're proud of you and pleased with the results that you have brought to our community.
The 5th member of that team who was a part of those 30 meetings was none other than our former school board director and former board president, Jeff Russell. Jeff, please come forward.
Debbie promised me I had 20 minutes to get this up. I served on the board for 40 years with Gary from 2009 to 2013. They felt like 40 years at times. Those were difficult years, hard years for the board and also for the superintendent. They were hard years financially as we moved through the Great Recession. In terms of governance, they were war years as well. But one of many things that I admired about you, Gary, is during that time, you brought to us focus and energy, enthusiasm, and a sense of joy to this work in the midst of that difficulty. And I'd want to echo all that's been said so far, and the lifting up the strategic plan and the power of the superintendent evaluation process, so that becomes not an afterthought of the year, but really the focal point for the board's interaction with the superintendent. It's a great gift to this board. But there's one thing I'd really like to focus on, and not everybody got to see it. I thought I had a unique perspective because of what the board was dealing with at the time. And we would see it when students were prepared for the legislative conference every year, and you see that as well. But saw it especially as we developed a policy for bringing student representatives onto the board, and got to watch firsthand Dr. Cohn's interaction with high school student body leadership then, and also at those legislative conferences and at other times through the year, and really saw someone who cared deeply for students. I mean, certainly for the conglomerate of marvelous numbers, but cares deeply and loves each of those students individually, and has a great gift of being able to be present with them and to draw out conversation with them and to help them grow into the kind of people that they deserve to be. And I really admire that about you. And after 3 years of therapy coming off the board, I realized that's probably why we got along so well, is because you can relate to adolescents, But when it comes down to it, I mean, that's what really matters. I mean, this work, as you know, it's not about the teachers, it's not about the principals, it's not about the leadership team, it's not about the board, and it's not about the superintendent. And the superintendent who knows that and lives that and does that day in and day out really does deserve to be Superintendent of the Year. Thank you for being here in Everett.
Thank you. We often have we've had conversations to say that when a board hires a superintendent, it's one of the most important hires of a community. It is one of the most significant hires a community has. We don't have that conversation often. I don't want you to be thinking that, but I want to thank Jeff and Ed and Karen and Christy and Sue. You got it right. You got it right. And you never know when that decision is going to pay off. And it has paid off, and when you see our graduation rates and the success that we enjoy today, we're able to have that because the 5 of you got it right. So congratulations on all that you did in that process. Thank you so much. We've searched back a ways, and we have a former Port Angeles School Board member. That was one of Gary's stops along the way, in Jeff Hines and his wife, Debbie. Are they here? Okay. I know they wanted to be here tonight to celebrate with you. We also are really fortunate. One of the names that I certainly have heard over the years, but I don't know that I've met this individual, is the former Everett Public Schools interim superintendent and a mentor of Gary's, Paul Shenison. And Paul, we're excited to have you here tonight and say a few words.
Well, first of all, Gary, I'll say that you don't have to worry about the 3 minutes, because those people who know me know I've never spoken for 3 minutes on anything, because I believe in short English declarative sentences. And thank you for having Sue here. She hired me as superintendent, too. So that's a long span of time. I first met Gary when I was teaching school finance, and he was a student. And he was an outstanding student in school finance. Now, most students who take that class worry about the formulas and how they work and all that. But in Gary, I saw a person who thought about what to do with the money for the students. How do you use efficiently and effectively the funding you have? And so from that time on, I encouraged him to get into the business he's in, because he worked at that time in the Skill Center, Vocational Center in Lake Washington. And I wanted him in public schools where he could make a big impact. And I think I was right. I think it worked. And I'm very proud to say I know you. And I'm very proud to say I worked with you. And I probably worked with him longer than any of you over a long span of time. And interestingly enough, he still calls me at 10 o'clock at night with a question. So thank you for your work, and thank you for taking over this district that I was proud to work in for years. And thank you for the achievement of the kids that you've supervised. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
We call public education, it begins before the K, and it goes way beyond the 12, and we're really fortunate to have Dr. Paul Petrie from Washington State University, North Puget Sound, come forward and say a few words. Thank you, Paul.
Board members, Superintendent Cohn, thank you so much for having me here and allowing me to say a couple of words. First of all, I'd like to say congratulations to you, Dr. Cohn, on your excellent work. This award is so well deserved. You've done excellent work in this community, Everett Public Schools, and the state of Washington. I don't think I have a whole lot to add to all the great stories and experiences that your friends and colleagues have shared tonight. But I would like to say a couple of things. First and foremost, I'd like to say, Gary, that you remind me so much of my supervisor, mentor, and friend, our late Dr. Elson Floyd, in that you're extremely thoughtful, strategic, and passionate about education, and we have all benefited from that. I'd also like to say that you have a laser focus on student success, and that is so important, again, to the success of Everett Public Schools in the state of Washington. And finally, you hold us high, all of us, to high standards, and that's something that's extremely important, and keep doing that, keep holding us to that high standard. And with that, I'd just like to say congratulations. I really value our partnership and our friendship, and look forward to many more years of success. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul. Chancellor, who will be winning the Apple Cup this Friday? Many of you have heard about Gary's involvement in the community, and we have representatives from the nonprofit community. Dennis Smith is sick tonight, so he was unable to attend, but Toroya Miller is here, and she'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, and thank you for having me. I'm sure when I walked in the door, Gary was looking a little surprised, and he did get an email regarding this, but I'm sure those comments of, I'm not sure what someone was going to say, I came to mind when I walked in the door. So without further ado, my name is Toroya Miller, and I do work at Coastal Community Bank, but I am also the past chair of the board of United Way of Snohomish County, and it's in that capacity that I am here, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Dennis Smith, and he has given me some words, so you can rest assured you're okay. So, because the other thing that it is when you give me a mic, you never know what's going to come out. So, under Dr. Cohen's visionary leadership, students throughout the district are being prepared for successful careers in the future, while also helping to contribute to the health of our local community and economy. He is known as an excellent communicator and can explain complex educational concepts in a way that brings both understanding and agreement. Dennis also serves as the board chair of our United Way. He has been a critical ally in our strategic planning efforts, the creation of an innovative and forward-looking United Way, and the hiring and training of a highly professional collaborative staff in order to successfully deliver our core programs. He finally says, Dennis finally says, as one of our most important community leaders, Dr. Cohen was invited to be a charter member of the Snohomish County Health Leadership Coalition. This program has generated much interest and accolades, including having our governor come to the Everett School District to learn more about the programs and participate in a pick-up basketball game with some of the students. I can't leave this mic without sharing my personal thoughts about Dr. Cohen. And I've been blessed to work with him in the last couple of years on the board, and he's been quite the inspiration. And I, too, have been a recipient of the calls, not at 10 o'clock at night, but a recipient, nevertheless. And there has been times when I've gotten off the phone with Gary and said, did I really help him? Did I answer the question he needs? And without fail, I've always felt rest assured, because regardless if I helped or I said anything that was any remotely intelligent, he always made me feel like I did help. And that is a gift, and a gift that we have because you're a compassionate leader. And I thank you and welcome and appreciate your insight and what you have done here at the school district. And I, too, congratulate you on being the recipient of the 2017 Superintendent of the Year Award. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing those words, as well as Dr. Dennis Smith. Our final speaker for this evening is someone I know very well. He has an over 35-year career with the YMCA, and he has served as our president and CEO for the last 8 years. Mr. Scott Washburn.
Thank you, Ted. It's nice to see you in this forum. So impressive. So I'm going to include that in your performance review coming up in a couple of months. So nice presentation skills, can lead a group. So well done. So, anyway, congratulations, Gary. I'm really pleased to be here to represent the community. I didn't realize you had a day job. I thought you spent all your time in the community. And so we won't talk too much about that, and I'm only being a bit facetious because, as somebody else mentioned, Gary is very prominently visible in this community, and not just present, but contributing in leadership roles. Presently, he's chairing two of the most significant not-for-profit organizations in this county. One we just heard from, United Way, and the other one that I represent, which is the YMCA Snohomish County, which together has something like 200 years of history in this community. And so I really appreciate Gary and his ability to take on big leadership roles and to get involved in the community and to demonstrate that commitment. And what's really exciting is to see how that gets leveraged. So as I look in this room and I see people that are in my committee meetings, and I come here and it looks like a YMCA committee or a Rotary group with Sally and Peter and Jeff and Mike and Mary in the back and my friend Kelly here, and it goes on and on. I think that's a testament to not only your leadership, but how you leverage, how you multiply, how you catalyze your work and put it in the hearts and minds of the people in this room that work for this district, and proudly so can take great credit for the work that's been done here. And so congratulations. We see your work every day. We're a partner with you, and that's the other thing I would mention is that I've always felt like a highly respected partner, not somebody that's just simply doing something for the district, but actually working very closely to make sure that we advance both our missions, the mission of the district, the mission of the YMCA, which is really to serve kids and families. So congratulations, well done. And I'm starting to get those 10 p.m. texts. He doesn't call me so much, so I get the text, so I'm starting to feel the Gary influence that, as always, and as others have mentioned, always in a very supportive, appreciative role. What can I do to support your work, the work in this community? And so, again, congratulations, well done. Look forward to next couple of years with you. So, thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Scott. A number of people in our audience tonight, but if there are those who wanted to say any other words before I turn the microphone over to Dr. Cohn.
Really,
Patrick Pierce with Economic Alliance.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning. Good evening. It feels like it's one of those days here. I just wanted to make sure, I'm sorry I missed the sign-up sheet here, but make sure that I give my great thanks to Dr. Cohn and his team. As you mentioned, President Wenta, education is one of the key cornerstones to economic development, and really all that Gary has done in this district to really help move forward education, move this district forward. I'm a product of Everett Public Schools. I've got my daughters in kindergarten here, and I couldn't be more proud to have her in this district. And it comes down to when we recruit companies, when we're keeping companies, having a strong community, which is really education is that backbone, and being able to recruit and know that we're confident when we bring them here that they're going to locate their families in a district that is really really first class, and it really goes to Gary, his leadership, and the entire team. And the other thing I'd say that someone else had mentioned, I always know how we can help, and that is a very, very valuable thing. And we do a lot to help the district because Gary and his team are not afraid to ask, and we really appreciate that, and really just want to continue to be a great partner with the district. So thank you all, and congratulations to you. Thanks.
Thanks.
Janice, what a treat to have you here.
Hi,
I
Thank you
missed
so
the
much for
sign-up
joining
sheet as
us.
well. Anyway, I will be really brief, and I wanted to say thank you for all that you've done in the community and communities of color. I'm working with the NAACP, working with youth development programs that focus on youth of African descent. I think that I was one of those people that got that call when you first got here. It says, let's go to lunch, because you really reached out to the community, across the community, and that's very much appreciated. And it's very much appreciated that you continue to do that and continue to support and continue to partner with many of us in the community. So thank you.
Yes.
I want to read a letter from Dr. Gene Sherritt. He's the Executive Director of Statewide Professional Learning Network. He says, it is an honor to provide a few personal comments recognizing Dr. Gary Cohn as the 2017 Washington State Superintendent of the Year. This prestigious award reflects the highest standards in leadership, competence, and results. There is no question Dr. Cohn represents the pinnacle of excellence in educational leadership. We all know that leadership matters. It matters a great deal in building the capacity of people and organizations. The challenge of effective leadership is to create a system for continuous improvement that has clarity of purpose, a collaborative culture, a focus on learning, and all based on trust. Gary has accomplished this challenge. Under Gary's direction, students in the Everett Public Schools closed the achievement gap in socioeconomic status, ethnicity, special education, or gender. Dr. Cohn led a district effort to intentionally focus on closing all of these achievement gaps and to raise the graduation rate to over 90%. Everett has one of the highest graduation rates in the state and the highest in its demographic range, with over 40% of the students socio and economically challenged. Gary is the consummate professional. He works daily to improve his own performance and practice and has high expectations for his leadership team to grow their skills. He is truly one of the most competent, qualified, and authentic school leaders I have met in my 43 years of school experience. It is richly deserving of this prestigious award. Congratulations to Gary, to the Everett Public Schools, and to the school board for supporting and encouraging this leadership excellence. So that's from me.
Very nice.
Yeah. Before we turn it over to you, we have a little video we'd like to show you.
No, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that last picture is all that it's about, right? That's the work, and I think I speak on behalf of the entire school board. It is an honor and a privilege to serve in working with this man. And he is a mentor, he is a friend, and our community is very lucky to have this type of educational leadership, not only for our district, but for our cities and for this region. We really, the best days are still ahead. And it is, when we were celebrating this and we shared this last Friday evening, many of us were sitting around and we were talking about how these are the good days. But they were forged out of some very difficult times. but it was a school board before us that made some wonderful choices that allowed us to enjoy the success that we do. And so, Dr. Cohn, we celebrate you, we congratulate you, and please join me in celebrating our 2017 Superintendent of the Year, Dr. Gary Cohn.
I have to tell you, it's the first time I've ever been likened to an auto part catalytic converter, I think. Okay, thanks. And I also have to tell you that Paul Shenison really does speak in very short declarative sentences. After Sue Cooper called and asked if I would join the search that Everett was conducting at the time, she said that Paul had recommended me, so I immediately called Paul. And did he answer the phone with hello? No. He answered the phone with, I know why you're calling. And I said, okay. And I think I said something to the effect of, how many people did you recommend for this? And he said, just one. And I said, well, how do you know that I can do it? And he said, because I trained you and you will not fail. So thank you all for coming this evening. This is it's really very difficult to put into words how it feels to experience this. You know, when Joyce and Molly and Peter and Mary, I think, hauled me into an office and said, "Okay, we're gonna submit a Superintendent of the Year application, award application, and we don't want any guff from you. We just want you to do the parts we need you to do." I said to myself, "Okay, fine." And really had no idea that this experience would be the result of that. I really do. I suspect that each one of you knows that an award like this is less about the individual and more about the teams. You know, more about the exceptional people that we work with, the professionals in an endeavor like this one. This team, I think I wrote today to all the staff, simply stated, is incredible. This is a remarkable place to work. This is an incredible board of directors that's sitting in front of you. It's a truly exceptional district leadership team. The principal core in this organization is so outstanding. Sometimes I just kind of get a little teary just watching them work and being with them. We have an outstanding teacher corps. They lead the state in every imaginable way, and we have a support team in the district that contributes to an operation that's just consistently outstanding. They deliver day after day after day. In fact, I think we just had some of our bus mechanics recognized because they achieved a level of recognition that almost no one else has in the United States, which I think is pretty remarkable. I'm delighted that our former school board members are here. I thank you for being here. It was certainly an honor being in the process of being selected. And no, there were no page protectors in that notebook. But there was a lot of research and there was a lot of homework because you don't make a decision like this lightly. And you don't sit before a board of the 12th largest school district in the state and come to it unprepared. And I think preparedness is pretty important. This group of people, that group of people, they're very courageous leaders. They're parents, they're community-minded folks, they're student-focused leaders. And in the 7.5 years that I've been here, they've never wavered from the notion, the importance of each student's success. So I want to thank all of you, and I want to thank all of you because we can't do the work that we do here without the quality and character of leadership that's sitting around this table and has been sitting around this table for actually many decades in Everett. This board is a board that any superintendent in the state would love to work for, truly work with, because that's how the board superintendent team works. I want to thank you, Paul, because you, I think, more than almost anybody else said it's time for you to get into this line of work. Start now. And I did. And I want to recognize Dave Steele, who's sitting in the room with us this evening, who I've known actually a little bit longer than Paul because I started on the VOC internship, I think the day I stepped out of the classroom Dr. Fowler put me in that program, and Dave Steele was retired as superintendent of North Thurston, and has literally been at my elbow, like Paul has, like Mike Boring has, for all of the time I've been doing this work. I've been very fortunate to have some super mentorship, some wonderful leaders. I want to thank as well. I mean, you can't do this work and not thank some of the folks who've influenced you. Dr. Scar, who I served under in Lake Washington, an incredible leader and a remarkable influence. It wouldn't be fair not to recognize Brian Benzel and the late Karen Voorhees, under whom I conducted my internship. And I want to make sure we thank Carol Whitehead, because the work that we do here today is built on the work that Carol and former Associate Superintendent Terry Edwards did when they started the focus on each student and began that graduation rate build. There is so much more about this organization than graduation rates, but that leads the work, and that really is sort of the point for what we do, making sure kids do leave us college and career ready. I want to recognize the people who are sitting at these front tables. Joyce Stewart, our Deputy Superintendent, Peter Scott, our Associate, Larry Fleckenstein, our Assistant Superintendent, Sally Lancaster, Jeff Moore, who manages our finances and operations, along with Mike Gunn, who you heard from tonight. Jeannie Willard, who's been doing an incredible amount of work and is our on-time graduation coordinator. Becky Clifford, who's got special ed, and Debbie Kovacs, who's just the most wonderful HR leader. These are the people who bring all the parts together in the organization. I want to note that we have several, or had, I think they still are, several high school principals in the room with us this evening, and some other leaders. People like Kathy Woods and Lance Balla and Kelly Shepard, who leads schools, very complex organizations, and I'll note that my wife was a high school principal, and reminds me it's the most difficult job in the district. But I want to thank these folks, because you don't achieve what we've achieved without that level of quality and character in your leadership team. The board, the leadership team, the teaching corps. You know, on a personal note, I want to thank my family who's here with me this evening. Dad, Mom, my sister Leslie, my wife are sitting in the front row waiting for me to say something really dumb. I'll try not to, I promise. And I can't thank them enough for putting up with all the late nights and the early mornings and the things that we do to be able to lead organizations and do the kinds of things that we do for kids at this level and for this length of time. You know, many of us are going to sit with family and loved ones at Thanksgiving tables in the next few days. We're going to enjoy ourselves. Some of us are just going to show up at the table and eat. You know, unless we've taken part in stuffing that turkey or slicing the apples and whipping the potatoes, we don't think about what it takes to put something like that together. You know, I've watched my wife, I've watched family members, my mom, plan and do this kind of work over time. And when you think about it, it's a metaphor for the work that our department leaders, our support staff, our teachers, our transportation folks do every single day to get thousands and thousands of kids at the right school, on the right bus, at school at the right time. And those kids experience an incredible opportunity in Everett Public Schools. The science and the art of teaching is raised to a very high level here. People like Sue Mills, who've worked with us for many, many years to help us improve. People like Pat Davenport, people like Jeff Utek, who's working with us right now, come in to help us be better in every way we can be better so that kids have a better result. I'll tell you that miracles happen in this district every day. You know, they really do when you think about all those moving parts and all the wonderful experiences have. And one of our speakers that Joyce reminds us to attend to regularly told us that for a lot of kids, school is the very, very best part of their day. The very best part of their day. 40% free and reduced lunch rate means there's a lot of kids in this community, 1,100 kids who are homeless in this community, the largest number of kids in any district in this county. It means a lot of kids don't have what we have, what we had, what we grew up with. What we're trying to be able to give them the tools to provide for themselves and their families. So I think now is as good a time as any to be thankful. To be thankful for the Thanksgiving time that's upon us, for the family, for the friends, for the colleagues, for the unparalleled support of community partners, legislators who take time out of a busy day just after a grueling campaign to be with us, for the mayor to be here with us, for community leaders, for the chancellor of a major university in the United States of America to be with us. Absolutely, I know. I can't say it. For Washington State University, go Cougs, I know. You help us create what we have here, and I don't want for a second you to think that the people in this room are not grateful for your support and the work that you've done with us. I want to thank you, Janice, for being there and for helping us do the work that we do. It's truly an honor to serve this community. As superintendent here, to work with so many remarkable professionals, to be excited about coming here every single day, because I don't think there's a better place to go to work in the state of Washington. I really don't. Nobody else has what we have here. And yes, these are the good times, and we need to remember that, because the legislature is going to meet pretty soon, and that may not always be the case. I want to thank the folks, my colleagues, who recognize the work that we do here and chose to honor me for that work. It is teamwork, and it is important work. And I also, I want to thank you all for not giving up on any single day and always being willing to do a little bit more and a little bit better. That's unusual. I want to thank you very much for the honor. Thanks. Happy Thanksgiving. Everybody gets to go home now. I'm going to take Charlie Burgess and his class to lunch, because that was a great video.
Oh, it was
Thank
great.
you very much.
Well, Dr. Cohen, we do have a certificate.
Oh,
You know,
great.
of course. I mean, that's what we do at the school district, right? We give out certificates, but we also have a copy of the award. But this certificate of recognition reads, awarded to Dr. Gary Cohn for earning Washington Association of School Administrators 2017 Superintendent of the Year Award, and for continuing your vision, leadership, and advocacy on behalf of staff, students, and families in our Everett Public Schools. So congratulations. We will make sure. And for members of our audience, we invite you to stay for a reception afterwards. We're still in a board meeting right now, but so that brings us to Section 17.0, we are adjourned. This concludes the work of the Everett Public Schools Board of Directors for November 22nd, 2016. We are adjourned. We invite you to stay. Thank you so much.